What's up? This is Technically Correct with Tyler Bischoff. On today's show, Carter Hart is a Golden Knight. Why does it matter? And should you actually care as a fan? Plus, Pete Carroll might have taken a subtle jab at Chip Kelly this week. We've definitely gotten some messy drama in the media between those two. Plus, the WNBA is trying really hard to avoid a lockout. It might be the only thing that can stop the Aces dynasty. I begged yesterday. And I got a bite. Got a few bites, actually. First up, Mike Etheridge. Congratulations, Mike. First sponsor in Technically Correct with Tyler Bischoff. Show history. I told you guys yesterday, it's not going to take a lot. It's not going to cost a lot. You want to sponsor the show, let me know. Actual business, that'd be good. Yeah, we can put that in there. But Mike is our first sponsor. He wanted me to let you guys know that he is the only Nevada and Tulane alum that's listening to the show. That's why you got to see those fun little logos there on the graphic. So thank you, Mike. I'm guessing the first episode wasn't that great since I talked about how bad Nevada's been at football for 4 years and that Tulane lost their head coach. They could still go to the playoff, though. So thank you, Mike. Let's get some sponsorships for this show. Not going to cost you a lot of money. And I'll stop begging. I know at least Sploosh complained about me begging for money to start. You can make it stop by sponsoring me. Here we go. The Golden Knights have Carter Hart. December 1st was the first day Carter Hart was eligible to be on an NHL roster, and the Golden Knights wasted no time. Carl Lindbaum sent down to the AHL, and Carter Hart was at practice. The backstory here, if you haven't been paying attention or didn't pay that much attention, Carter Hart was one of 5 hockey players that were on trial for sexual assault over the summer, dating back or stemming from an incident in 2018 where they were accused of sexually assaulting a woman in a hotel room. The 5 players were acquitted. They were found not guilty. There are a lot of details, public details about what happened that night. And even with the not guilty ruling, you're free to make your own judgment on how you support Carter Hart or how much you think the Golden Knights should support Carter Hart. It's a highly publicized sexual assault trial. Carter Hart was involved. He was acquitted. The NHL suspended him and other members, and December 1st is the end of that suspension. So he's eligible to play in the NHL. I do think it's an important note that the NHL deemed what Carter Hart did worthy of punishment. Even though he wasn't found guilty, the NHL still suspended him. I think that's an important note. But Carter Hart is a Golden Knight. Kevin Weeks reported that Hart's going to start Tuesday night's game against Chicago. Bruce Cassidy did not confirm that on Monday. He said he would confirm that or not confirm that, I guess, on Tuesday before the game. So we'll see. First part that I'm interested in, though. Now that Carter Hart is going to play in the NHL once again, how will Golden Knights fans react to his presence? We have seen plenty of visceral reactions online to the Golden Knights signing Carter Hart. Lots of Vegas Golden sex offender tweets. But we also did see fans in Tampa that had signs that said, believe survivors and acquitted doesn't equal innocence. That was a game Carter Hart wasn't even playing in, right? He had been signed, but wasn't even like on the roster. But that's mostly, if not entirely, from fans of other teams. How do Golden Knights fans react? Hart's first game is tonight in Las Vegas. Is there any sort of protest? Is there booing? Are there signs? There is usually a good away fan contingent for Golden Knights home games, so maybe we'll see something from them. But is there anything from Golden Knights fans? Because that reaction is going to be more important to the team than what Tampa fans think or the Vegas Golden sex offender tweets. We'll see the reaction on the road. The Golden Knights go on a road trip after this. They're in New Jersey. They play both New York teams, Philadelphia and Columbus. What's Carter Hart's reception in those games? Can't imagine it's good, especially in Philadelphia, but how bad will it be? And how long will it last? Will we go the entire season with Carter Hart getting booed, with signs being made? Will we go the entire season with the Golden Knights avoiding mentioning Carter Hart on Twitter? We might. But that's what I'm curious to see, is sort of this fan reaction to what's been a delay in terms of the end of the trial, the NHL's decision on punishment, the Golden Knights signing him to a PTO, then signing him to a real contract, and now his eligibility to play. It's been kind of drawn out, so it hasn't been this one focused moment, but now we get a big focus moment where he's playing. He's going to be an active member on the ice, in theory, helping the team win. So I'm curious to see the fan reaction, but I have two separate thoughts for you. The first one is that it is entirely fair, as a Golden Knights fan, obviously as fans of other teams, we've already seen it, to be critical of this team for signing Carter Hart. And it's pretty easy to point out because of their own actions, right? They told us that they know signing Carter Hart was not a good idea or a smart idea. And there's two main moments. First, before the Golden Knights even signed Carter Hart, there were reports the team was interested. Mark Lazarus of The Athletic went to Vegas, and he wrote in his story that he asked Noah Hannafin a question about the team potentially signing Carter Hart, did that in an open locker room, a media availability session, and that after asking that question, Lazarus was removed from Bruce Cassidy's press conference, and his credential for that night's preseason game was taken away. The Golden Knights kicked a reporter out because he asked about the potential signing of Carter Hart. Like that's just a bad look. And it's something you do if you're just trying to avoid a topic altogether because you know it's negative. You know it's bad. That's the worst one. The other moment, and really it's a lack thereof moment, is Kelly McCrimmon, the GM of the team who has made the decision. He hasn't really talked about it. He took two questions on the Golden Knights Insider show about it, but they were questions from a Golden Knights employee. McCrimmon spent more time talking about how there's only 2 nets on a hockey rink and not 3, so it's really hard for 3 goalies to get practice time in. He did talk to Danny Webster of the Review-Journal about it. Danny Webster's got a good long story on the situation on the eve of Carter Hart probably playing his first game. But if you read through it, McCrimmon didn't really give any quotes about why he felt it was a good idea to sign Carter Hart, or more importantly, why he thought Carter Hart was a good person to add to the organization, right? McCrimmon talked about like, oh, he was acquitted and he's eligible to play in the NHL. And he mentioned carrying 3 goalies again. And he even had a quote about, well, you're going to play behind a good defense and we're a more predictable team to play behind than other teams. Most of that stuff is like procedural, right? Not guilty, eligible to play, the roster, what the team looks like. But none of that is what I think Kelly McCrimmon needs to answer, because the question for Kelly McCrimmon is just simply, why were you convinced that Carter Hart was a good enough person to add to the organization? It doesn't mean that there's not a right answer to that. That's, I think, the question that McCrimmon should be answering here. And the only thing that McCrimmon mentioned in the story that he talked to Danny Webster about was that Carter Hart and the other 4 players talked to Gary Bettman, the commissioner of the NHL, and that Kelly McCrimmon heard that Carter Hart was, quote, impressive in that interview. Did McCrimmon talk to Hart himself about the incident? Like, he signed him, but did he just hand over a contract and say, welcome to the team? Like, did the Golden Knights actually talk to Carter Hart about this? Because if you read that story, the only thing you get from McCrimmon is just him taking Gary Bettman's word that Carter Hart was impressive in this interview. Like, what the Golden Knights do as far as legwork goes for determining if Hart was a quality person. I'm not saying that he isn't. I'm not saying that he can't be on this roster. It's just a question that Kelly McCrimmon hasn't answered. And if the answer to the question is, well, Gary Bettman interviewed him, that's not good enough. Like, that's just not a good enough answer. And we don't know if that's what it is from Kelly McCrimmon, if there's more from the Golden Knights, because he hasn't talked about it. But those 2 details are pretty good signs that the team knows signing Carter Hart was not great, but they did it anyway because They think Carter Hart can help them win hockey games. And probably more importantly, they think Carter Hart's a cheap asset. They think he's cheaper than what he should be as a hockey player, which is because he was accused of sexual assault and didn't play hockey for a year and a half because of that. Now, the more important part, I think, for you as a fan, because a lot of times, and I'm definitely guilty of this, we can get caught up in the media of like, well, what's the GM or the coach or the player have to say about it? And sometimes as a fan, like, you don't care, or you might get tired of it and say, whatever, this is my favorite team. Like, yeah, it's probably bad, but it's fine. It's over with. So I definitely get caught up in that stuff with a lot of things. But as a fan, like, do you care? And I'm here to tell you, you don't have to. Like, the NHL says Carter Hart's eligible to play hockey. And if you want, that's all you need as a fan. That's all you need. Carter Hart plays for your favorite team. The NHL says he's eligible. It's fine. We're all going to have different lines or standards for what we support. And to be honest, sports fandom is a terrible place for drawing those lines because sports always gives talented players second chances. People that are actually guilty of things are able to come back and play. And we usually just ignore it and say, oh, yeah, he's a good wide receiver. No problem. Put him on the team. It's going to be fine. Like, that's what we do. For me personally, I'm an Arsenal fan. Arsenal had a player accused of rape playing for them up until this past season, right? His trial's not until next year, so guilty, not guilty, we don't know. But it was known that he was accused of rape, and he played for Arsenal for a few seasons with that accusation hanging out there. I didn't stop cheering for my favorite team because of that. I was at no point thrilled that he was still on the team, but I didn't give up my fandom. And sports, listen, it's bad about this. In theory, you should be giving up your fandom loyalty association to a group that supports somebody accused of rape or what Carter Hart did. Like, if you read what they did, even though they were found not guilty, you probably wouldn't want that person to be in your friend group or in your family. Like, that's the reality of it. But we don't do that in sports. We cheer for our favorite teams regardless of the quality of human that's on it. And I'm here to tell you, it's fine if you still cheer for the Golden Knights. You don't have to feel bad about cheering for it. You don't have to feel bad about cheering for Carter Hart. He's going to play goalie. If you're going to cheer for the team, you kind of have to cheer for Carter Hart. So you shouldn't feel bad about it. You don't have to give up your fandom. There's no reason to feel guilty about it. We're all going to have different standards. By the way, you can give up your fandom. You can say absolutely not. Tyler, you're ridiculous for even suggesting that this is okay. And that's fine, because it probably should be that way. But it's sports, and this is what we do in sports. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to judge any Golden Knights fans that's out here cheering for Carter Hart or the team that has Carter Hart on it, because that's what we do in professional sports. And if we applied that line to all of sports, every team would have that problem eventually. Hell, the Aces signed a player, Raquana Williams. She had been arrested for domestic violence, and then while with the team, got arrested again for domestic violence. Now, the second one was dropped while she was here because the woman that accused her of domestic violence stopped cooperating, I believe was the line. And so they dropped the case entirely. But that's two different arrests for domestic violence from the Aces. You know about that? You remember that? Did people stop cheering for the Aces? No. Like, it's what we do in sports. So don't feel bad that you're still cheering for the Golden Knights just because they signed Carter Hart. You don't have to like Carter Hart. You can still cheer for the Golden Knights. It's fine. Also of note, yesterday, Cal Foote, who's another one of those 5 players, he signed an AHL deal with the Chicago Wolves. So he is the second player of these 5 to sign, I guess we should say, a North American hockey contract. I know some of the other guys have played over in Europe, but you've got one NHL team, the Golden Knights, one AHL team, the Chicago Wolves, who have signed these players. I believe the Wolves are the affiliate of the Carolina Hurricanes, so we'll see what happens there. But Carter Hart's going to play. Don't feel bad about cheering for the Golden Knights. The other thing I wanted to talk about with the Golden Knights, because last week, Golden Knights were on the heels of 4 straight losses, and Bruce Cassidy, we got the first sort of drastic coaching move of the season from Bruce Cassidy. He benched Reilly Smith and Brandon Saad, 2 veteran players. And these 2 players, if you just look at their straight-up production, Saad had 1 goal, 3 assists in 24 games. Smith had 3 goals, 3 assists in 24 games. The offensive production is not there. And I'll say with Brandon Saad, I don't think there's going to be much left there. He wasn't productive in St. Louis last year, gets out of St. Louis, comes to Vegas. He plays with Hertl and Dorofeyev, sort of the all-offensive line for the Golden Knights, and had some production, but then not much in the playoffs. There were some injuries with that line, and now nothing this year. It is weird that Kelly McCrimmon and Bruce Cassidy talked about the Hertl, Dorofeyev, and Saad line before the season like it was going to be this very important line. That was strange, and now we've seen one of them just completely healthy scratched. But I think anything you get from Saad really from here on out is just a bonus. I think it's more of just a depth piece to put in the lineup that you know's probably not going to be terrible, but you're not really going to get much else out of it. Now, the Reilly Smith one, this is the one I find interesting because there's a coaching decision to go back to that explains how we got to the benching. But Reilly Smith has been huge non-factor for the team. Goals, assists are not there. His expected goals rate this year is 44%. It's third worst on the team. When you adjust for minutes played at 5-on-5, Vegas is allowing more scoring chances when Smith is on the ice than any other forward who's played at least 10 games. So when he's on the ice, this team is not good. Also, one other fun stat that this is not really his fault, but the team shooting percentage when Smith is on the ice is 3.8%. The league average is usually around like 10, and they're at under 4. Not really his fault, and that would, in theory, correct itself over time. But they can't shoot when Reilly Smith is on the ice. But here's the interesting thing to me, and it's how Bruce Cassidy has used Smith. So a stat for you: offensive zone face-off percentage. How many times does a player start a shift as an offensive zone face-off versus a defensive zone face-off? And to be clear, just shifts that start with a face-off, not on-the-fly shift. So this is play stops. Coach makes a very specific decision for a very specific scenario of who to put on the ice, right? Reilly Smith has a 46% offensive zone face-off percentage this season. The only forwards on the team with a lower offensive zone face-off percentage is the fourth line. Those 3 guys. Not surprisingly, the only forwards on the team with an expected goals rate lower than 50% are the fourth liners, Smith. William Karlsson's at 49.5. So the guys that have to take the most shifts in the defensive zone are the ones giving up the most shots and scoring chances and goals than the guys who get to start most of their shifts in the offensive zone. That shouldn't really be that surprising. And this is where I think there should be a little bit more blame for the Golden Knights' best players. Because who gets all the offensive zone starts? Jack Eichel, Mitch Marner, Pavel Dorofeyev, and Tomas Hertl. Those are the 4 guys with over 60% offensive zone start percentages this season. They lead the team. Those are the players getting the good situations. And they're not winning enough in those situations, right? Now, you want those guys on the ice. I'm not suggesting put the fourth line and Reilly Smith out there. What I'm saying is those guys need to be better, take advantage more of those opportunities because they're getting the good situations. Smith, the fourth line, are getting the bad situations. So it's probably going to be bad when they're on the ice. You need the good from the best players to outweigh the bad from the bad players. And so far, they haven't done it. They haven't done it at a high enough level. And the interesting thing to me, and this is where we go to coaching decision, Hertl and Dorofeyev, those are 2 guys you probably want to limit their defensive exposure as much as possible. Hertl's not going to move quick enough. Dorofeyev hasn't done much defensively in his career. He's a goal scorer. That's what he does. So you want them in offensive situations. But Eichel and Marner are supposed to be the 2 best two-way forwards. I guess Stone's in there too. 3 best two-way forwards on the team and in the entire league, right? They're up there. So Cassidy using them in these offensive situations is basically saying go score goals, and they're not doing it as much as they should. Marner's got 5 goals this year. And so if their production was higher, if Marner had 8 or 9 goals this season, the Golden Knights are winning a couple of more games. They go to overtime every other game, it seems, and we don't notice as much. We don't care as much about what's happening when Reilly Smith is on the ice. So that's part of it that I find extremely interesting is you have a coaching decision, you have some underperformance from the top players, and now we're seeing a bottom type player benched because of it, because they're not producing enough. How good is Reilly Smith? There haven't been many Reilly Smith moments this year, right? So, deserved as far as his play. He hasn't done much to overcome that, but that's part of it that I find really interesting with Cassidy's decision. By the way, they won the game after the benching, and this is an area where I don't think fans and media that we know a whole lot about, how much did that actually motivate the other players? Was it nothing? Was it significant? Was it just a little bit? Did they win just because they played San Jose and Nedeljkovic is always giving away goals? I don't know. But that could have been this sort of early season coaching tactic by Cassidy that motivated his team. We'll see what it looks like going forward, but Cassidy made a change. They won a game afterwards. So far, so good for Bruce Cassidy. And now it's time for Bischoff's Briefs. You can sponsor this too. This is not going to be expensive either. None of it's going to be expensive. Sponsor the show. I know you want to. Everybody wants you to. I got to make some money to do this show. So sponsor it. Bischoff's Briefs would love a great sponsor. It's a great name, well-named segment. So please sponsor Bischoff's Briefs. It'll be good for you. It'll be good for everybody involved. Now, Boise State will start Maddox Madsen at quarterback in the Mountain West title game. He has missed the last 3 games for Boise State. He got hurt in the game against Fresno State very early in that game. Boise State lost that game to Fresno State, then lost next week to San Diego State. They scored, I think it was a total of 14 points in those 2 games. They did win the next 2 games without him to get to the Mountain West Championship game, but he is back. He threw for 4 touchdowns against UNLV earlier this season in Boise State's big win over UNLV. And I think a fun stat for you is that Boise State has not lost a Mountain West game over the last 2 years when Madsen has started and finished the game. The only losses they have, period, to anybody are Oregon and Penn State last year, 2 playoff teams, Notre Dame this year, potential playoff team, and they got beat by USF to open the season. So not a playoff team, but a really good group of 5 team. I don't know if fully healthy is the right phrase to use, but UNLV is going to get a closer to full strength Boise State than what they've had their last 4 games. And again, he threw 4 touchdowns. They put up 50 plus points on UNLV. So UNLV could have taken any kind of break possible when it came to who they were playing at quarterback, but they will get Maddox Madsen. Another quarterback injury for you, Justin Herbert, who got hurt. He fractured his hand against the Raiders on Sunday. Ian Rappaport reported Herbert's planning to play. The Chargers play Monday night against the Eagles, and Rappaport said the plan is for Herbert to play. What's interesting is that when Rappaport gave that information on NFL Network, he said Herbert was undergoing surgery right now. I don't know how you know it went well and you're going to play when the surgery isn't over yet. Surgery's over by now, and the reports are it went fine, but they weren't even waiting to see how the surgery went. They were saying, good to go, he's going to play. Chargers are, by the way, fascinating spot because they're 8-4. They're in the playoffs as of now, and 8-4 is a great record. I bet 80-90% of teams that are 8-4 end up making the playoffs. But their schedule's brutal. They finished the year with Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, Texans, and Broncos. All of those teams are in a legitimate playoff race, right? Chiefs, Cowboys, Texans aren't currently in, but the Texans are only 1 game out. The Cowboys are I think it's a game and a half with the tie. Chiefs are 2 out, and are they still Super Bowl favorites close to it? That's a brutal schedule where you don't have an easy game anymore like they did against the Raiders, where Herbert can break his hand and it's no problem because the Raiders aren't going to score points. There's no easy games left, so they look like a team, especially if Herbert is limited at all, they could go from 8-4 to missing the playoffs. I think that's who you circle as who could the Chiefs catch? Or maybe the Texans. Who could they catch? Maybe it's the Chargers if things start to fall apart here. In college football, we talked yesterday about a group of 5 teams that had good seasons losing their coaches. It happened again. James Madison, they're losing their coach. Bob Chesney's taken the UCLA job. James Madison is 11-1 this year. They're about to play for a conference championship. Could be in the playoffs with a win, by the way. And Chesney he's going to coach them in the title game. And if they make the playoffs, he's apparently going to coach them in the playoffs as well. But Chesney is leaving James Madison and going to UCLA. He was 20-5 at James Madison. He was at Holy Cross before that, went 44-21. He's got a fascinating coaching history because he's gone head coach at Division III to head coach at Division II to head coach at FCS to head coach at James Madison and now head coach to UCLA. He had been an assistant in the past, but he's just gone head coach to head coach to head coach to head coach at the next rung on the ladder over and over and over again. So we'll see. But what it means for the group of five, you've got North Texas, USF, Memphis, Tulane, and now James Madison have all lost their coaches to power conferences. Those are like throughout the year when we've talked about which group of five team is going to go to the playoffs. Those are like the five most talked about teams. USF and Memphis kind of fell off there. Tulane and North Texas are going to play each other, and the winner's almost certainly going. James Madison's hanging around with a legitimate shot. Like, this is a disaster. And like, Lane Kiffin's dominated the college football world for the last few days, and a lot of people have pointed to the schedule and how it's a problem. It is, but the Lane Kiffin stuff, it's more about Lane Kiffin being Lane Kiffin, right? He's 11-1 power conference team and leaves. But it really sucks for the group of five because even though these coaches are all going to stay and coach out their conference championship game and potential playoff, you still have guys that are now, okay, we're in the playoff, but I still have to recruit for Florida. I have to recruit for UCLA because that has to happen. And so they're going to get their attention split and not have, hey, our best season ever, we're in a playoff, this is what we wanted, and now you've lost it. So group of five team, you make the playoffs, you're losing your coach. You don't have to make it, you just be in position, you're losing your coach. Not great. And we'll see how well it actually goes. Also, other coaching search that happened, Kentucky fired Mark Stoops. I saw a few tweets of people saying, oh, Dan Mullen could be on the wish list. They've apparently already made up their mind. It's Will Stein, the Oregon offensive coordinator. So it appears as though Kentucky was looking for a new head coach before they actually fired Stoops. So good for them. But it does ruin, I'm talking about it anyways, it does ruin what would have been, I think, the funniest scenario. Mike Florio reported this, that Chip Kelly was a possible name for the Kentucky job. Now, the way Florio reported it, he wrote, word is circulating among Kentucky players that Kelly could be the team's next head coach. That doesn't mean he will be. It doesn't even mean he's an official candidate. It means only that Kentucky players have somehow developed the impression that Kelly could be the new coach. Word is circulating among players is probably the weirdest way that I've seen a coaching candidate be named. And it didn't matter because they're hiring Stein instead. But I would have loved that. I hope a college team hires Kelly. I know he left his last college head coaching job to be an offensive coordinator at UCLA, or excuse me, at Ohio State. But I hope he goes back to coaching a college team. That feels right, I think is the best phrase to use there. It feels right that he coaches a college team. Now, in the WNBA, the Players Association and the league agreed to another extension of the collective bargaining agreement. So it had already expired once. They had agreed to one extension that was through the month of November. They've now agreed to a new extension that runs through January 9th. It's 40 days. That's why the weird day of January 9th. We still haven't seen anything that makes me think they're going to agree to a new CBA soon. The Players Association did put out a statement yesterday that said, we expect substantive movement from the league within this window. Maybe they're just saying that to try to put some pressure on the actual WNBA to come up with a more acceptable solution, but they think there will be. I don't know that there will be. The recent update on negotiations is that the WNBA offered the players a proposal where the max salary would be $1.1 million and the minimum would be $220,000. For reference, the current max is just under $250,000 and the current minimum is just over $60,000. So again, you'd be going from $250,000 max to $1.1 million max and $60,000 minimum to $220,000 minimum. Huge increase. Sounds great. But the players don't want it, but not not because the dollar amounts. They're not sitting here saying, no, we don't want those dollar amounts. They are specifically arguing for a different setup, a different way that the money is shared with them. And the comparison is the NBA and the NFL, where player salaries, so the salary cap and everything, it's tied to revenue, right? It's a revenue share. The players get a certain percentage. That's what determines the salary cap in most of our leagues, right? The cap goes up when revenues go up. The WNBA players want that same system, right? They're sitting here saying, hey, the league is going to grow in popularity. The revenue is going to continue to go up. We want, as players, we want to be able to keep cashing in on that each year. If revenue keeps rising, we want the max salary to keep going up. We want the minimum salary. We want the salary cap. We want all of that to keep rising if revenues keep rising, where the proposal the WNBA sent them would just lock them into this salary amount regardless of how well the league improved. And if the WNBA takes off, then the players are stuck with the same money while the owners take it all in. And I think it's exactly what the players should be trying to do, because like this is the moment. I'm not that old, so I don't know all the strikes or CBAs of the 70s or 80s, but like this is a perfect time as a player for there to be the end of a CBA, because the league has exploded. They've signed a new television deal that's massive. It dwarfs what they were getting. The league, in theory, should be bringing in a lot of money, a lot of revenue going forward. Caitlin Clark exists, right? This is when the players need to be like, yeah, we want that. Like, we want that the same way that the NBA gets it. We want the same percentage that they're doing, the same setup they're doing. That's what they should be asking for, right? Because if this takes off and the WNBA becomes, as popular as the NHL or something, or right behind it, then they're going to make a ton of money. And the players are the ones that are going to want a share, a normal share of that. So I think it's exactly what they should be asking for. If the owners don't agree to it, I don't know where we go. I don't know how we get to the start of the season, which is usually around May, without some sort of lockout. So we'll see. Maybe January 9th gets here and there's an agreement. We're good to go, or at least they're closer and you can see the finish line. And then January 9th to May is a lot easier to figure out. But as of now, it just, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But as of now, it just doesn't seem like there's this obvious, oh yeah, they're clearly going to put this all together and have no actual problem. One last thing I wanted to get to here in Bischoff's briefs. New Mexico put out a statement about not making the Mountain West Championship game. Part of that statement, so I got a couple issues with it. Part of that statement said that they earned the chance to play in the Mountain West title game. Well, they finished 6-2, and so did UNLV and Boise State and San Diego State, right? Like 4 teams earned the chance with their record to play in the Mountain West title game. So just saying you earned it when 4 other teams did and you lost on a tiebreaker doesn't really mean anything. They all earned it. But the part that annoyed me the most, because they had it in their statement, and I saw a few New Mexico fans on Twitter who made the same argument, but they put it in there that New Mexico has won 6 games in a row. I don't understand how that's an argument that they should be in over UNLV or Boise State, because you play 8 Mountain West games. It does not matter if you start at 6-0 or if you finish 6-0. Where your 2 losses were at the beginning, at the end, doesn't matter. Go start with 3-0, then lose 2, then finish 3-0. It's completely irrelevant. It's a completely stupid point to be like, well, we won our last 6 games. You didn't win your last 6 games. That's not how we do it. That is not how we decide things at all, ever. No, it's not what we do. But that's somehow an argument that New Mexico was using. And here's the thing. New Mexico fans and administration and players and all that, and San Diego State should be mad. They missed the Mountain West Championship game on a weird tiebreaker on computer polls that, I love SP+, but most fans and players don't care. They don't even know what the hell KPI is. I don't know what Sports Source is. They should be mad. That is a dumb way to lose a Mountain West Championship appearance. A completely stupid way to do it, where we don't understand exactly how it's happening. They should be mad. Make better arguments. It'd be more fun. Make some more arguments that make a little bit of sense than just, we won 6 in a row to end the year. That's how you do it. And I lied. I got one more thing for Bischoff's briefs. Not related to local sports. This is just me digging into some drama here. Lane Kiffin takes the LSU job, and we have some more details thanks to Wilson Alexander of The Advocate in Baton Rouge on his contract. First off, Lane Kiffin, I believe he's tied now with Kirby Smart at Georgia as the highest paid coach in college football. But he also got two really funny clauses from LSU. First off, his contract with Ole Miss included bonuses for making the playoff, winning playoff games, winning the national championship. I believe it's up to $1 million in bonuses if he wins the national championship as the coach at Ole Miss. Well, he's not there anymore, so he can't get those bonuses. LSU's going to pay those. If Ole Miss wins the national championship, LSU has to pay Lane Kiffin $1 million. It's incredibly funny. I don't know how Lane Kiffin and his agent, Jimmy Sexton, even negotiated that, got LSU to agree to that, but that's incredible that they did. Also funny, Lane Kiffin's buyout is 80% of his salary, which is actually lower than most, but he doesn't have a mitigation clause. So most of these coaches' contracts, you have these big buyouts, but they include a clause that says if you take a new job, your salary at that job, whatever it is, will reduce the buyout we pay you. Lane Kiffin doesn't have that. So if he gets fired by LSU, takes a new job, he'll get the salary from the new job and 80% of his salary at LSU until the end of his contract. Lane Kiffin should get fired. I mean, the best case scenario is he gets fired at LSU, takes another head coaching job, collects 80% of his LSU salary in the new one. That's how he's going to get paid the most. That's more than just the 80% from LSU or 100% from LSU. He should get fired now. And finally, this one's a bit more rumor on Twitter. If you follow Lane Kiffin at all over the last few years, you may be aware of a dog named Juice Kiffin. Lane posted about him all the time. I think he ran Juice's Twitter account. I'm not 100% sure on that. But Juice was around the football team and events on the field, like part of the team. Turns out Juice Kiffin, not actually Lane Kiffin's dog. It was someone else's dog that was basically letting Lane use him, rent him. I don't know how that works. So Lane Kiffin builds up this goodwill with a dog that isn't even his, and then goes to LSU and leaves the dog behind. Juice Kiffin staying in Oxford. That's the real betrayal. Forget about the players and the staff and the college football playoff. The real betrayal here is Juice Kiffin getting left behind by Lane Kiffin. And then we all find out, oh, he didn't even live with him anyways. That's not who it actually was. That's Bischoff's Briefs. Sponsor it. I know you'll love it. I'll love you for sponsoring Bischoff's Briefs. So please do it. It'll be a great sponsorship. All right, now we're going to get into the Raiders. Pete Carroll talked again to the media on Monday after their loss to the Chargers. And Pete Carroll maybe mentioned, took a shot at Chip Kelly. First off, he was asked about like improvement with the offense last week. They fired Chip Kelly, their offensive coordinator, was asked about improvement in the first week without him, with Greg Olsen as the interim offensive coordinator. We didn't see it on the field as far as improvement goes, but here is what Pete Carroll had to say about that improvement.
It was drinking from the fire hose last week. I mean, it was as hard as it could get for those guys to get set up and get rolling. I hope that we'll make some good improvement here. The process during the week was much more like the one that we want. Communication for the players and to the coaches was good, and we'll see if we can't just build on that.
So the key word for me right there is communication. That to me is the key word, because Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly didn't seem to be on the same page. Kind of threw him under the bus a few times throughout the year, again, subtly. But I think he subtly took a shot at Kelly by bringing up communication, because we had this report last week from Tom Pelissero. He was on the Rich Eisen show that was about some of the behind the scenes, how things were actually going for Chip Kelly. So here's Tom Pelissero again on the Rich Eisen show.
About just the dysfunction of the Raiders offense. There were times I was told where Chip Kelly was repeatedly botching the play calls, where he's supposed to be, for instance, tagging a motion on a play so the receiver's on the left, not the right. He forgets to say it, so Geno Smith is going to the line of scrimmage and going, this doesn't look right, and they're trying to run a play. It happened on a third down in the game the other day. There's times where Chip, I was told on several occasions, called a play that was either not in the game plan or not installed at all. Things like that happen. You're not productive. That's enough. You didn't need any extra excuses.
Damn.
But there were a lot of things that were popping up.
That's Tom Pelissero telling us that Chip Kelly's putting in plays that weren't installed, that he was forgetting to say things like a wide receiver should be in motion. I think the first question there is, do you believe that? Right? Pete Carroll told the Review Journal last week there's no truth to that report. But like Chip Kelly, I'll say this. It's pretty easy to believe that an offensive coordinator forgot to put a couple of words on a play call that would have sent a wide receiver in motion. Like, that seems plausible. I'm going to guess that happens across the league where a play caller butchers something in the quarterback's helmet and they miss a motion or something like that. Seems like a small issue that you can figure out. You think the quarterback would be able to figure it out while calling the play himself. But like, do we believe that Chip Kelly was actually calling plays that the offense never installed? Do we believe that? That they just never practiced a play and then Chip Kelly had it on his play sheet and called it? They never went over it? That seems hard to believe. So I don't know that I get that one. But all of that is communication. That's Tom Pelissero telling us that Chip Kelly had bad communication with the players. Pete Carroll gave us a slight hint of thinking it's better now with Greg Olsen, or at least he thinks it's better. Again, we didn't see it on the field, but he thinks it's better. Here's the real problem, though. Who leaked that to Tom Pelissero? That's an NFL Network reporter that almost certainly has a source close to the highest level, right? I don't think Tom Pelissero is reporting that if Raheem Mostert, the backup running back, tells him, right? I think Tom Pelissero is reporting that because the head coach or the GM or an owner told him, maybe Geno Smith's agent. That actually would make a lot of sense, right? Geno Smith has been terrible this year. There's some motivation there to be like, yeah, let's throw Chip Kelly under the bus. Yeah, Geno's been bad, but it was actually Chip Kelly that he wasn't calling plays that we actually practiced. He was calling plays that we had never seen before. So maybe Geno Smith's agent did it. But Tom Pelissero's probably reporting that because it came from somebody of pretty high importance at the Raiders. So where'd it come from? Like, did Pete Carroll leak that? Is Brady leaking that? Spytech? Mark Davis? Like, someone in the organization wanted to make sure Chip Kelly took the blame on the way out. So somebody did. Somebody was like, yeah, we fired him. Let's make him look as bad as possible. I mean, Pete Carroll blamed him talking to the media. Again, pretty subtly, but he never really had complimentary things to say. Carroll never talked about it was being his fault. He just painted it as Chip Kelly's offense. So we'll see. Which means we've seen the Raiders have 3 notable people leave. One was Jacoby Myers, and nothing really happened there. Myers seems like too chill of a guy for anything to actually happen, for there to be any problems. But go back to the offseason. Christian Wilkins gets cut. Raiders are voiding or still trying to void the guaranteed money in his contract. And we got stories of Wilkins not taking his rehab seriously, wanting a different treatment plan from the team. And then we got the kiss story where he apparently kissed a teammate. All of that made Wilkins look bad. From who? And why, right? Like, that happened, and now Kelly gets fired, and there's more league details to make Chip Kelly look bad. That's happened twice now, with 2 of the 3 sort of big-name departures from this team since Pete Carroll became the head coach. What's funny is we got a rebuttal of this. Ian Rappaport of NFL.com, who basically said, he wrote a story about this, but basically said Chip Kelly didn't have control of the offense. Rappaport wrote, based on the views of those who studied the offense and based on those who game planned against it this season, they don't believe Kelly was running his own offense at all. It was unlike anything Chip Kelly previously had run. Basically, Rappaport was saying that opponents that he talked to had been studying last year's Seahawks offense more than past Chip Kelly offenses, and that the Raiders, specifically their run game, the blocking schemes and everything, was what Seattle used to do and not what Chip Kelly has done his entire career. I'm not going to pretend to be a film guy and say that that's true or false. I'm just telling you what Ian Rappaport reported. We also got this line in there. Sources say Kelly expressed frustration about the setup. Who do you think that source is? Because I'm willing to bet it's Chip Kelly or his agent, right? So Rappaport's whole story, talks to other teams that sort of back it up, but it feels like a Chip Kelly type of leak or his agent to get some dirt thrown back on Pete Carroll and say, hey, this wasn't my fault, old man. This was your fault, right? You were making me do stuff that you did in Seattle. It's not what I do. It's not why I have good offenses in the past. Incredible drama from the Raiders. Big fan of it. And here's the problem. Is this just who the Raiders are now? Is this just it? Bad thing happens. Somebody's gone. All right, leak stuff. Get it out there. We're going to have some drama, right? We were told Tom Brady and Pete Carroll and John Spytek were going to be the adults. They were going to bring good culture. They were going to run a professional organization. And everybody that gets cut or fired, we've got details that are being leaked about how bad they actually were. We've seen that twice now. So maybe that's just who they are. And we shouldn't expect the adults to be any different. All right. That's the show. Thank you to everyone who's listened to the first two shows. I really do appreciate it. I'm trying to do something on my own, trying to do something that's got no guarantee that it'll work from a money standpoint, but also just from an actual content standpoint. So I appreciate all of you listening to the show. And I want to say this. Any suggestions you have, let me know, right? You have more power and influence over me than you probably think, right? If 6 of you say the same thing, I'm going to think the entire world wants me to do it. That's already happened with the idea of Patreon, right? I'm hesitant to make a Patreon and make a pay to view or pay to listen type thing. I want this to be free and accessible. Maybe there are some extra things that we can do. So that's a possibility. I'll think about it. If you're interested or would be interested in Patreon, let me know on Twitter or email me, technicallycorrectvegas@gmail.com. Let me know, because we could do that. I'm not going to say no to that. But I'm not going to make the whole show behind a Patreon or anything like that. That's not the plan. But if there's more stuff or extra stuff, absolutely, that could be something we look into. And anything else, any other ideas? Again, I know Sploosh doesn't like that I'm begging sponsors for sponsor money from the jump. Tough, Sploosh. I need to make some money. But anything else you have, anything you don't like about the show, anything you don't like, hey, your microphone looks stupid, whatever, let me know. I might ignore it. I might say it's a bad idea, but let me know, because I don't know exactly what all of this is going to look like a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. I have ideas. I have things that I think are going to work. I have things that I think are going to be successful, but in reality, it's got to be you. You're the one that's going to tell me what's good, right? Whether you physically tell me, or it's just, hey, nobody watched that, nobody listened to that. They loved that, though. They loved watching that. You guys are going to be the ones to tell me this. So we'll see. You tell me what it is. Whatever it is, I'm open to all suggestions. I'm open to listening to whatever you have to say. If a lot of you agree with Sploosh that I shouldn't be begging for money, tell me. I might stop doing it. Probably not, because I need the money, but I might stop doing it. So yeah, please tell me. I'd say, Mike Etheridge, who sponsored the show, thank you, Mike. He said he wanted more national content. So maybe I'll put some more of that into Bischoff's briefs. If you hate that idea, tell me, right? I want this to be a local show, but there are national stories that are interesting, and there are national stories that tie a little into local sports there. So tell me if you want me to have that, or if you're like, absolutely not, only about Las Vegas sports. So yeah, that's the show. Please let me know anything you think, any ideas you have, any questions you have. Absolutely let me know, because I want this to be successful. And for it to be successful, you guys have to like it. So tell me what you like. Tell me what you think will be good. And I'll think about doing it. You guys keep creating more work for me. Keep giving me ideas, and then I got to go do extra things. But that's good. That's how we're trying to make this work over here. So yeah, that's it. That's it for the show today. I'm grateful for everybody who's listened to 2 episodes, especially if you listen this far into the episode. We'll be back tomorrow, probably after Carter Hart's debut for the Golden Knights.